Yeah, let's go. Alright. Show the Nightcap deck? Nah, I'm not showing the Nightcap deck. Got funnier night. Photo free mid. This is also new DB. It's kind of new DB kind of thing. Okay, here. What is this list? Oh, it's just Badurni's list. Just Badurni's list on combos. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is better for normal combos. Just four pups, 2 of these, several of these. Yeah, this is pretty good. Optimized combo. Beta carotene, oh my gosh. Beta carotene does not have good stuff. So I'm just checking for like every hero right now and seeing like if I have the correct deck list. Okay, Super Brain Telems. What am I gonna bring for Smash though? Like Papega Smash? Probably Papega Smash. I'm gonna bring Papega Smash to the table. And then it's Infinity. Oh yeah. Bureau Pirates 2.1. This one, for sure. Alright, so yeah, Barrel Pirates 2.1. Let's see. Is my paparazzi list correct or not? Okay, it is correct. Because I'm trying to make sure like every single list I have right now is correct. Just making sure. Okay, Binary 22 is actually the okay, so this is slight modded binary. The slight modded binary 22 with a little cheese cutter and dog walker kind of ratio change right there. Just a little, you know, ratio change right there. I think cheese cutter is better. Just in this deck, you have area 22, which is, you know, way better. Temple package. Maybe I still don't know. Do I still have a temple package? Temple package, maybe I'll still show, but binary 22. Yeah, wait a second. Actually, let me like make a proper DB deck list for binary. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, don't question me. Don't question how I memorize the exact ratios. Done. Tempo package sucks. Am I gonna run the binary 22 on rank though? Not really. I don't like it on rank. What is this? This version of Lockout, huh? Okay, we got that. Trick stash. There you go, trick stash. Ready to go. This lead. Well, I guess I can show this one as well. The tot trick stash. The, little trick-or-treaters in there instead of the Garg throwing imps, which is a little bit better against ladder, I'd say. A little bit better against ladder. Actually, I'm a little bit too loud right now, I'm pretty sure. Let me turn out my volume by, like, a little bit. There you go. What the heck happened to... Okay, my antivirus literally just popped up and said that my game's not... Okay. Bro, what? Okay, my antivirus just literally just popped up on my screen and force quit my game. Okay, I guess. Well, alright. That's great. Thanks, antivirus. Okay, and it's gone. What the heck is this? Okay. What the heck is this garbage? Okay, run ads. Okay, how many ads do we have? We have 9 ads to go. Guys, I'm gonna tell you, we're gonna finish all 9 ads today. It's so many ads left on the queue right now. Where's Countertron? Where's Countertron? I'm leaving. Blame it on the people who redeem it. Sorry. Okay, it's not my fault. Blame it to the people who redeem it. Oh, we got more ads. Here we go. So, guys. So, ads only get redeemed like every... They only, run every 10 minutes. So, you're gonna have to wait for 10 minutes again for your ads. So, yeah. Well, we got a couple more ads going. Alright. Here we go. We see. Holy crap, how many people are redeeming ads right now? What the heck is going on? You guys are just like, oh, redeeming ads late. Ads. Oh no, I showed my own Google Play information. I don't care. The heck happened again? Okay, my game died again. Great. Okay, my game died again. This is great. Okay, I'm just gonna force quick blue stacks then. The heck is this garbage? Yeah, guys. So, one problem I have right now is what deck do I show for Rose? What deck do I show for Rose when I talk about, like, the best deck for Rose? I'm tempted to just show nothing. I'm tempted to just show nothing for Rose. Oh no. I don't have a good conclusion for, like, what's a good deck for Rose yet. Ram Mid Rose? No, Ram Mid Rose is such a bad deck. I'm not showing Ram Mid Rose. No, I'm sorry. Sorry. Against all my morals, I cannot show Ram Mid Rose. Ram Mid Rose is just too bad of a deck. It's so bad. It's such a bad deck, bro. Old Mid Rose. Oh, no. Old Mid Rose is even worse than freaking Ram Mid Rose. Come on, man. Make a deck and call it nothing lol. I wish I could save decks with 0 cards. Because that'd be great. Okay, my game's not loading for some reason again. I don't know what the heck is going on. Rose sucks. I like to say to anyone who, is like the first time watching like this kind of Discord meta stuff, yes, Rose is pretty much the worst plan hero right now. In terms of matchups, because you can create better things with other heroes. Not that it's bad, but she is severely outclassed by basically every other plan option you have in the game. So she is the worst. Comparatively speaking, she is definitely the worst in the game. Is GK better than CC? I'd say for tournament purposes, yes. In general, maybe not. In general, maybe Captain Combustible is a more even matchup against everything else. Grass Knuckles, for Grass Knuckles, I'd say is way better for tournament because in a tournament, you know, in a tournament format, you're able to ban tail limbs, which just makes Grass Knuckles so much better in terms of, you know, having to deal with it. Like pretty much, you're forced to ban Grass Knuckles if you're because everyone in the mother is just banning HG and like Infinity or Professor Brainstorm, which means you really just have to ban, you know, you just have to ban really just Grass Knuckles because you can't deal with it if, you know, HG and Professor Brainstorm are pretty much banned out the window, and then you're pretty much like forced to play Smash. Tells better than Freeant. I'd like to digress in that because Freeant wins more favorably into certain decks, and you know, Freeant like Limbs, even though it has more favorite matchups, it doesn't like, you know, win as much as like into a certain deck, you know? You know what I mean? So basically like my thinking is like I can run Limbs, which will win into both things, but Freeant when I run it and I get my matchup of Guard Burn and Barrel Pirates and like, you know, those kind of decks, those are really, you know, gonna be, you know, better for me. Is CC or Citron better? I say easily, you know, Captain Combustible is easy, like, better overall. But in a tournament standard, like in the tournament format, maybe Citron is better. It's just what I'm thinking about right now. Okay, can I finally get my game on the screen? Like, my game gonna finally show up on screen, or no? Okay, we're gifting zombies back in the event cycle now. There we go. This stream's gonna be RCCH complaining about heroes it doesn't and crazy televisions and being for 2 hours in light. Not really. So basically in the stream what I'm gonna try to do basically is gonna, you know, just show people basically, you know, what the best decks are, give some explanation, give them a little short rundown on how to play them, and you know, the relative like video proper links are gonna be shown in the description. So yeah, the gameplay videos are gonna be, you know, sort of on my channel already. So yeah, except for a couple of decks, you know, a couple of decks like A-Beans and Ringzilla I haven't played yet, but most decks I have played already. So yeah, I've played most decks in the game. Trick Stash is a high roll deck. Shut the heck up. Shut your freaking ass. I mean, I guess ladder and like free moonwalkers is better, so yeah, I guess ladder, free moonwalkers, and two brain vendors. I find that against the DB, like free brain vendors is better. The reason it is because you can really just use brain vendor as like a, you know, a 0 cost to 1 if you're going against DB, which is gonna be nicer. You have a little bit extra defense and you're not gonna break as much of moonwalkers, but against like ladder, you kind of want that, you know, 4/4 more often, you know, to activate your swimmers more, kind of stuff. That's why I could say like a little ratio change between these two cards is fine. And yeah, don't play toss. Like for Igmorticia, I'm pretty much just showing toss and Igmorticia for like the good kind of decks. Let's gonna give Igmorticia a little thing right here. But anyways, I'm just gonna keep checking all the decks and then, yeah. Let's see, Garg mech, yeah, okay. Pretty sure I would like need like a little bit of ratio change for Garg mech. Like I don't know. This deck is just monk ass, honestly. This anti-database, like, what do I need to make it like an optimized, like, optimal Guardbird deck list right now, okay? Let's stop saying freaking Grave Robber is better than freaking Con Man, because I don't know what the heck we're thinking about that one. So free aerobics for certain. No, not Conga. The hell am I doing? Okay, so you, like, missions, you, then you, bunny, Raph, Gas, Bunny. Yeah, you. Two bunnies. And then we kind of cut like one of these out. Nah, I think 4 final engines is good enough. Like, get rid of one of these. Kinda. So kind of like this kind of optimal kind of Garg burn. This is like 1 card off the anti-database version, but I think this is slightly better. Anyways, I'm just kind of figuring out like what the deck list is for everything is. Plane control. Let's see if it's modded. Nope, this is fine. Okay, so plane control is fine. Ishitella M's. Yeah, I think just this one is better. Just this deck list. Yeah, this deck list should be optimal. 1 swabby free teleports. Alright. So we're gonna be talking a lot. Maybe you can take breaks between like decks. So yeah. I have a list up right now and show like what decks I'm gonna show. That's basically it. And yeah. I think we can start right here. Anyways. Yeah, let's go. Alright guys, so today I'm very excited to show you guys all the best decks for every single hero in the game in 2021. So this year has been kind of a year for PvZ heroes as we found out a lot of things in the game and really just, found out so many new decks and, new ideas and, really some odd additions to some sort of decks and, things we certainly did not anticipate to be like competitively viable and sort of going to be showing you guys like what the Discord meta, kind of opinion of decks is, at least like from my perspective, on like what decks are good and what decks are bad, in terms of like comparison, and also showing you like the best decks for every single hero so you guys can use them if you play PvZ heroes, either competitively or on ladder. So we're gonna start and we're just gonna start right here, and the first deck we're gonna be showing is gonna be the best deck. So we're gonna go from the best to the worst. So we're gonna do plants first, and then we're gonna do zombies. So we're gonna do the best deck for plants first, and I'm gonna say it right now. The best plant deck in the game right now, and the best deck in the game right now, is probably free ants. So this deck is basically using the Guardian package early game, which is the Forgiving Us, Photosynthesizer, Triceratops, Garlic, and kind of free nut things. And you really get a lot of tempo on the board early game with these 2 cards right here, specifically Galactic Cactus and Forgiving Nuts with Photosynthesizer and your Triceratops. So basically the whole idea of the deck is pretty simple. It's basically a tempo deck. And you got a lot of, anti-tricks, and you got a lot of anti-minions. So these Primal Mines and Hot Dates are really just like really strong options against those crazy package decks like Garg Burn and Barrel Pirates. And this deck does very, very well against those crazy packages, including Garg Burn and Barrel Pirates, and basically every single other package hero like Boogaloo and Professor Brainstorm package does great. So the notable inclusion of this deck is basically the Doublemint. So Doublemint really is used as like a second kind of Triceratops. So you basically play Doublemint on turn 2. If they commit, all their mana, and they don't have any mana left to deal with Doublemint, they're always gonna have to spend more than 2 mana to kill your Doublemint. Just kind of like the same idea as Triceratops, but it's a little more risky. So that's why we're running like 3 of them, and Triceratops is 4 of them. Obviously Triceratops is freaking broken because this card is busted, and you can just place it on the board and it's gonna become a 2/4 next turn, and they're gonna have to spend a fruit kick in it already, and you get a good trade because then they spend a fruit kick and then you get a card back for that. So yeah. This card is absolutely broken. Black IP is very, very good at trading because, punishes opponents from, playing tricks, protect your minions, which is very good because it's free help as well, which means that it doesn't die to Plumber, so that's really good as well. So your Photosynthesizer, of course, you protect your minions. The next interesting, kind of inclusion we have is Blockbuster. Basically, the whole, this early game strategy all free ends has been found to be really weak against like a gravestone decks, as we have developed this deck off a previous deck which is called R3D, which is red. Red was really weak against gravestones, particularly lockout and plane control decks, and basically what we want to do is just put four for these blockbusters in here, and basically all those Pokemon Yeti matchups now do not matter at all, because we just have the card that automatically destroys the entire game plan and rips it apart when we just have Blockbuster. Like, Blockbuster hard counters, the Pokemon Yeti Mug strat. When you just allows us to, hard tech against those crazy package decks with the, really aggressive early game stuff. So basically, we want to tech the sneaky and attack this crazy, and basically the free remaining heroes are not that great, and people don't play them anyways, which is Rust Bolt, Morticia, and Smash. Smash you can basically ignore because no one ever is going to play Smash. And in Morticia, I'd suggest you do not play Morticia, because Morticia instantly loses the Triceratops if they think about Cyborg on turn 2, so that's also another problem. And Morticia is also very weak in a hero in general right now. So yeah, that's the reason why Freeman is really that strong. Just typically because that it's just too easy to be able to tech these crazy package decks and tech these like sneaky Graves decks, and then just boom, and then you get the whole thing together right here. And the other like kind of finisher we have in the deck under the Free Nut. Free Nut, of course, very strong finisher because it buffs your minions up. So yeah, kind of note right here, we're only running free nuts because you don't want to get more than one free nut every game, so you're just running free, and you're running really just these to scale your early game for late game. And otherwise you have the Red Planet, which is a very good top end card against database, because you can stick it in a lane and it's going to keep getting value every single time, because if they use fruit kick on it, then you're going to be able to place another 1-mana minion and you have to remove it again. And it's and typically database decks do not just run like useless environments in the deck that do not contribute to the game plan at all. So because database decks tend to not run like, and competitive decks tend to not just run unnecessary environments like Tributary Retreat, like, or like Graveyard to counter your Red Planet. So yeah, this is why it's a thing. Good inclusion in this deck, and I'll show you a kind of a more anti-ladder version of like free ends right here. I think this is like a little bit more anti-ladder in terms of how good it is. Basically, trying to run like click bees instead of our primal potato mines, because click bees are more proactive in developing that early game tempo, and you really don't need as many like primal potato mines to deal with that ladder threads. And click bees does make sense right here to put in here. Basically still running the same deck with a little bit of ratio changes right here with more black eyed peas and just like a little bit more things right here. Anyways, that's a little bit basically a more adaptive or ladder version, kind of like free in. Basically, you can just run aggro grass knuckles. Otherwise, you can run Savage Cucumber, which is this deck right here, which is also a very strong tempo deck. Although I would not recommend running this because it's kind of weak against a lot of things, like the crazy class typically, and like teacher. So yeah, this deck is also fine if you want to run it, but not the best option that Grass Knuckles has right now. So yeah, Freehan is the best plant deck in the game, and probably the best deck in the game right now. Alright, moving on to the next plant deck, and that is going to be Captain Combustible, and we're going to be looking at Combos. So this is basically Combos. The deck idea is basically you want to develop tempo and or just stall that early game and install into that very strong Moss combo with Captain Combustible, because especially with the superpowers right here with Blazing Bark, Meteor Strike, Tiny Shine, and Biggins. Like Blazing Bark and Embiggen are amazing with repeat mods, because the Blazing Bark just lets this do a 6 damage bow to attack your opponent's face, which is absolutely freaking amazing. So we want to talk about why this deck is so strong, is because basically that this combo, the repeat moss combo, is incredibly busted in terms of how much it can do. This combo carries the entire deck. When you play combos, my suggestion is, if you see the repeat moss, just keep it in your hand. You just keep one in your hand every single game, because you're gonna need it, and it's the reason why it's so strong. So, also another thing about this deck is that you have an alternative kind of win condition, which is the onion rings. If you happen to not get repeat mods, you can always just play onion rings, turn these pop shrooms into big 4/4 zero costers, which is very good. So yeah, the early game plan, basically, if it's crazy package, then you kind of just want to, stall it out by, placing these 2/2s in front of the raid robbers, in front of the comment. If it's a comment, then you can do a 1-drop plus a puff stream to kill that comment, which is pretty good. Then you can just use develop a banana launcher to get your banana bombs, which actually helps a lot in the repeat moss combo, because then you can place a repeat moss, place like a blazing bark, and then place a banana bomb, and the banana bomb will help you, make the repeat moss do a 6 damage bonus attack again, which is pretty good. Of course, running Berry Blast, also running Black IP again. So Split Pea, of course, is very decent in this deck as well, because it helps give you your own superpowers, because it procs your own block, and then it procs your own block, so you get your more superpowers more often, then it helps you win with repeat moss more often. So it's kind of like synergetic with the whole deck. Click Peas, of course, are very strong. Blueprint cards also very strong. Velociraptor Hunter, probably one of the best cards in the game as well right now, because this is just so hard to efficiently remove, other than like Weed Spray, at the turn you're played. If they have exploding fruitcake, this is gonna, like, they can't really exploding fruitcake this on turn 3, because then it makes the thing in the back have 2 attack anyway, so kind of a negative trade for that. So a very strong card as well, because it's a very decent amount of stats that's hard to remove. And that's basically it. This version is definitely more for the ladder purposes, and yeah, this is what the video is for. It's basically for you guys to use these decks on ladder and basically just have fun and still be able to use some very competitive decks in the game. And yeah, so I didn't actually explain this, but we're running 2 banana bombs basically just as an extra early game mileage. Also it's extra synergy repeat mods, but otherwise it's like the worst card in the deck. So yeah, onion rings, repeat mods. Also, actually, a little bit more extra thing on a note is that onion rings on a repeat moss is also very strong, because it makes moss a 4/4. So when you do a moss, it's a 4/4. You can use your banana bombs to make it do 4 damage every bonus attack, which is also pretty good. It's just like a big one. All right, so next deck, or rather, I should say next hero. So we're gonna be showing you the next hero right here, and I can't believe it. I'm gonna say it, but the next best hero in the game is Citron. So it got a long way, because last year Citron was the worst plant hero in the game, and this year is the 3rd best plant hero in the game. And it's pretty much because of this deck right here, which is Elusives. So basically, again, it is the early game tempo guardian strat with the Forget-Me-Nots and Triceratops, and then you have the photosynthesizer, and this time we're adding in the beans. So why does this deck work so well is typically because that Forget-Me-Nots synergizes with your beans very, very well, because if you play Forget-Me-Nots, then the weakness of beans is that the beans get removed by tricks. They get removed by plumbers, they get removed by a lot of things that just directly kill them. And basically Forget-Me-Nots just protects those beans from being removed so efficiently, because it only costs 1 while still being a good stat minion. And not to mention that photosynthesizer synergizes with these beans very well as well, which we're running plenty of them, and we're running the kind of the best kind of plant inside of the Smarty class right now, which is probably Jelly Bean. This card is obnoxiously strong. You can you can just have any bean in the water, and we have 10 1-cost amphibious beans in this deck. It's so easy to just have a 1-cost amphibious bean in the water waiting for you on turn 4 just to place a Jelly Bean in there and make a 5/4 in the water, which is so hard to remove, especially because you have those Forget-Me-Nots and Triceratops developing the tempo as well. And it's just very synergetic in a way, because that Jelly Bean basically bounces anything in front of a Triceratops, helps you hit phase really, really hard, and this also saves the board as well. So an interesting inclusion in this deck is kind of like Marine Bean, because you have a lot of amphibious minions, including Rhodobaga, which Rhodobaga is probably the most optimal option right here, because Rhodobaga synergizes very well for photosynthesizer as well. This deck really utilizes Citron superpowers to its fullest, basically, because you're protecting a lot of things with photosynthesizer, protecting a lot of things like Nut Signal, your root walls and your Citron Sigs. Basically, this whole deck is basically revolved around having your minions being protected by Forget-Me-Nots and photosynthesizer and Citron superpowers kind of things, and then you can follow up with tempo options, and you have your beans. Free Nut is kind of the worst card in this deck, other than maybe Marine Bean. This deck is not a Free Nut deck, despite a lot of people thinking it is. You usually do not keep Free Nut in your starting hand with Elusives, and typically it is not good idea to keep free nut because it's really not that great in this deck because you're really just spamming up most of your things on the board from turn 1 to turn 3. You're not really focused on trying to get that, you know, huge free nut value, just like play free nut and then just like boom 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 and just like dish all the beans out. No, that's not how you play this deck. Mostly you want to play this deck as like a tempo-y kind of deck. But you know, against a crazy package, then you kind of want to play slow and go for the free nut kind of combo stuff. But usually, typically, you don't want to go for free nut. So yeah, don't just save like everything for your free nuts. Of course, in some situations you do want to do that. In some situations you don't want to do that. So yeah, kind of situational for when you want your free nuts and when you don't want to play your free nuts. But anyway, the last card deck I want to explain is basically the Shrinking Violet. The Shrinking Violet really helps a lot because it is a relatively cheap unblocked card, and because you're developing so many threats on the board, they're gonna have to, because typically, you know, because you play for Geminis, they're gonna have the answers as minions instead of, you know, playing tricks. Then you can just use your Shrinking Violet and just remove all their, you know, swarmy minions. And if they play a big minion, you know, they just get so punished by Jelly Bean. And basically you have this trifecta right here. You know, you have this to counter tricks, and then you have, you know, all these to counter tricks as well, including photosynthesizers, and then you have so many things anti-tricks, and then you have the anti-big minion on terms of Jelly Bean, and Jelly Bean as a card itself is insanely good already. And if they're playing Swarm, then you use your Shrinking Violet and just gather all those minions, and then you can hit your opponent's face. Typically, this deck does incredibly well against things in general. I think this went 10-0 in like less than 40 minutes. Whenever we played this on stream, it was absolutely amazing. This deck is easily like one of the best decks in the game. If I was to push ladder with a plant deck, I would recommend Elusives. This is the deck I would recommend for you to go for if you're going to play against ladder, because this is overall an extremely strong deck. So how do you really counter this deck? Basically, there aren't really a lot of counters to this deck. Basically, the two main counters to this deck is, number one, Black Hole. Black Hole hard counters Elusives because it just sucks all the beans into the ground, which is significantly reduces, you know, the effectiveness of your whole deck, because, you know, all these like things just are so much weaker when they're in the Black Hole. Plus the fact that, you know, you can't really utilize your, you know, team ups well, because now they get stuck into the ground and just really, you know, hurting your game plan. Black Hole is a very easy way to beat this deck, so because this deck gets out of environments. So you might ask, do I want to have environments in Elusive? My answer is no. I've tried to put environments into Elusives a lot of times, and it did not work out because, you know, it just doesn't have space to put that environment in there, like the bog. I don't, no, just don't. Don't try to put an environment in this deck. You want to counter Black Hole. If you want to counter Black Hole, play another deck. The second kind of counter to Elusives is Garg Burn, because this deck does not have a good answer against the turn 3 Gargologist, which is the problem. So the deck does not have a good answer against turn 3 Gargologist because you're not running Primatinamine or Hot Date or like anything that just instantly moves in on turn 3, which becomes a huge problem because then, you know, they're going to be starting placing Gargs on turn 4, and you're going to be forced to play a Jelly Bean on turn 4, and then, you know, just end up having so much tempo, you know, just playing these cheap guards because you can't remove Gargologist immediately on turn 3. You know, it just really hurts the game plan of this deck in general. So like turn 3 Gargologist is a very big thing against this deck, which is really good. So yeah, overall, I'd say that you should use this deck if you want to push ladder. And yeah, next deck. Alright, so the next deck on my list is going to be Wall Knight. So Wall Knight surprisingly has, you know, has its ups and downs in terms of how good as a hero has been, but basically I think this is Funnier Knight is probably the best Wall Knight deck right now. Oh, whoops, this deck is actually wrong. Whoops. This deck is actually wrong. I just realized this, but okay, now it's fixed. So basically the whole idea of Funnier Knight is pretty simple. You're basically just playing Control Wall Knight, and then you ramp into your late game cards like Astrocado, Soul Patch, and Cop Cannon, and to counter, you know, the Pokemon Yeti Mug kind of strategies that counter this, you know, lineup really badly, because, you know, the Pogo just immediately denies all 7 mana of your Soul Patch. Basically just burn Blockbuster to hard counter that, and then, you know, you get a really strong, you know, control deck. You know, and yeah, basically deck is very, very simple as a whole, I'd say. And the game plan basically just stall turn 1 and then stall turn 2, and then if they commit, then just play Twin Sunflower into an Astro. If they play like Cowboy, just hammer it. Like, I don't really need to explain this deck. I guess one, kind of interesting inclusion is the Force Field right here, and Force Field is pretty good actually, because then you can place your Soul Patch into Force Field, which just instantly destroys any, player who does not run an environment, because, they can't remove the Soul Patch. So, well, there it goes, So yeah, so some people might be saying like, why RCCH don't you just run like better control cards instead of running the ramp cards, which are, get removed and, are bad. So my reasoning for running these ramp cards is really that it's good with the Cob Cannon, it's good with the Cob Cannon to really get that, efficient evolution off of your Cob Cannon onto your opponent's, big minions, and your Cob Cannon is really your only efficient big removal, and you really need it early against like some of the decks like Toss, like Tisha of some size, which you really need a Cob Cannon early, so that's why you run these ramp cards against those kind of decks. And like even against like Garg Bird, this is like turn 4 Cob Cannon really helps against like that Bunny Garg on turn 4 if they have the Gargologist set up and they didn't remove the Sunny or Shroom. For say they have Gargologist into Hardy Tree or Gargologist into like Rock Wall, then that ramp really helps you out to kill that big minion on like earlier, or just having a good fodder for your big minion. Anyways, deck is pretty simple. So one reason we're not running Elderberry is because I've kind of found out that Elderberry is really just inefficient in terms of like evolution on this deck specifically, because you don't really have enough like cheap minions to evolve the Elderberry on top of, and it ends up being really expensive, because then you're really evolving Elderberries on top of like ramp cards. Then it becomes like a 7-drop 5/4, which is, I don't think it's worth it at all, because then it gets removed for 2 like by a final mission or a free kick. Like, no, not worth it at all. And then because it destroys 2 cards in the same time in the whole process as well, and then covering your own ramp is kind of not good in this deck, because you really want to play these big minions early as well. So yeah, don't run Elderberry, and that's why we're running Blockbuster, because Blockbuster actually does stuff in terms of what we wanted to do. And if we want some things of like Elderberry, then we already have Astro, which already does that job. So yeah, just don't want to like waste the deck space, and just kind of want to have good options against most decks in the game. So the other alternative option for Wall Knight is Photo Freemid. Basically, this is a Freenut deck with Wall Knight. I don't think this is that great, but it's still fine. This is basically the Guardian package for Wall Knight. The Guardian package for Wall Knight against Photosynthesizer, Triceratops, Freenut, basically that kind of stuff. But with Wall Knight, basically that kind of interesting inclusion is like Haunted Pumpkin with like Freenut, but it kind of ended up synergizing really well, because then you can actually just play this in turn 1 and then Photosynthesizer, which I find is a really cool combo. Pumpkin with Photosynthesizer, just 2 cost 4/4s, which I think is decent enough for a reason to run Pumpkin in a Freenut deck. So running Elderberry's late game, Cob Cannon is really good on top of your like Walnuts, your Garlics, and your Walnuts synergized for Freenuts as well, which is kind of a reason why we justify running Walnut in this deck, because you have multiple activators for it, like Elderberry, Cob Cannon, and Freenut. So we're running a couple of hammers to kill the teleportation zombies and cowboys. And that's basically it for Wall Knight. Just good tempo early game options, and yeah, hot date, just efficient removal against like Gargologist or Aerobics Instructor. So yeah, there it is for Wall Knight. So next deck is going to be Spudow. So Spudow, like at the start of this year, we kind of said like Spudow is like the best Guardian hero and the best, and has the best plant deck in the game. We've kind of drifted away from that, because Burst Martin really just suffers a lot against like these grindy, crazy mid-range decks, and we've kind of moved away from saying Barton is the best plant deck in the game, and now it's kind of mediocre, sitting in the middle of the pack, and it's kind of the worst hero out of the Guardians. Like, have to compete against Elusive, Grass Knuckles, and Wall Knight. Barton really just sits down on, the bottom of the Guardian list. I don't know what the most optimal kind of, list for Spudow right now is, but I think Spartan Roots still does pretty well for what it does. Basically, this is kind of the best generic Freenut deck in the game. This is the deck that it revolved around completely around like the Freenut, because Freenut does really well synergy with your banana launchers and Velociraptor hunters, because it makes them have free attack, which is like the best kind of, you know, free net synergy in the game. But what does this deck really lack against is the lack of late game cards. The lack of late game cards really hurts, you know, the normal Barton deck list, which I'm actually going to show right now. The normal Barton deck list really suffers because it does not run any late game card that just helps, you know, win the game. He just plays a bunch of tempo on the board and you can never break through because of tricks. And if you can't break through, then how do you win? And the answer is you don't. And that's why it's not good typically against those crazy mid-range decks, which have become a lot more popular nowadays, which is Trick Stash and Binary 22, which Barton just automatically loses against because it just doesn't have a good way of breaking through and just really doing that lethal blow. Even if you have the best 3-net synergy, it's not the greatest because 3-net is not typically that great against control decks. Another kind of like deck we've been trying to build is like Burst Morton, which utilizes Incarnation instead of like Galactic Cactus, and kind of going for like Forgiveness Waves of Eyes, or again kind of crazy like Guardian package in terms of protecting your minions. I haven't really found a really good deck list for this yet, but I think Reincarnation is kind of legit. But for now, I'd just say Barton Roots is kind of better, just for generating purposes, because I know it works and that's why I'm going to recommend it. Burst Morton does not have full testing data yet, and I'm not going to confidently say Burst Morton is really necessarily better. So yeah, I'm gonna recommend Barton Roots as the best Spudow deck of 2021. Actually, I didn't even explain why Star Sword in this deck. Star Sword is really just in this deck as your extra, you know, 2 win conditions. So typically, I think like 4 win conditions in this deck a deck is not enough. Typically, 6 win conditions is kind of like the sweet spot in terms of like how many win conditions you want in a deck. Like so, again, like a Comboss case. In Comboss's case, you have 4 repeat monsters and 2 under range, which is 6 win conditions. Basically, I just think like having 6 win conditions in a deck is, you know, kind of like the sweet spot for every deck in the game. So we're running 2 Star Sources for like our top end, and yeah, Star Source synergizes very well because it gives you know, draws cards, buffs your roots, which is your dinosaurs. So it buffs your dinosaurs, and these dinosaurs happen to be roots as well, which is very good, and it also buffs you up your garlics, and it gives you Seam for late game, and that's basically why we run it. And yeah. So here comes the bottom 5 plants. So unfortunately, one thing I have to mention right now is that one problem with PvZ Heroes balancing is that there is a humongous gap between the top 5 heroes and the bottom 5 heroes on both sides, the plant side and the zombie side. Basically, the PvZ Heroes meta has evolved so much that we have basically found out like solve like what is the best class in the game. Pretty much that's Guardian class, and basically, you know, the top 5 heroes so far, they have all been Guardian heroes and Captain Combustible. So we're using the 4 Guardian heroes because Guardian is freaking broken as a class in general, and we have Combos on the top because Repeat Moss combo is really broken, and the next best hero, it's like so much worse than Barton, and you know, it's just such a huge power gap between like the Guardian heroes and like the next kind of, you know, good heroes. And the next kind of hero that we're going to be talking about is Nightcap, and we're going to be talking about Psygro. So this is basically the updated version of like Psycho Cap in 2021. Basically, we're not running beans anymore, we're just running the Astro Shroom combo because this is, you know, just really strong. And of course, you know, I'm going to admit it right now, this combo is easily one of the best combos in the game, you know. Astro Shroom, Planet of the Grave. I think everyone who played PvZ Heroes for a little while would know what Psycho Cap is because every single Nightcap in the game is running Psycho Cap. But this is kind of like a more optimized version of Psycho Cap, like on a Discord kind of version. But we're running Buff Shroom instead of like Chromag or Pineclone because it helps, you know, defeat against those barrels a lot better, because Barrel of Deadbeards is a huge problem on the zombie side that, you know, just destroys your old Psycho Cap kind of combos because it just, you know, has a whole barrel of Deadbeards and just destroy your entire board because all your minions are just 1 health, like your Puff Shroom, Super 2, and your Admiral AV Beans. Typically, why we're not running Pineclone instead of Buff Shroom is because Buff Shroom is cheaper, so you can buff your minions immediately. So, for say you play a Shiver 2 on turn 1, you can immediately buff Shroom on turn 2 to stop those from dying to barrel. And Pineclone costs more, and also removes the ability of your Astro Shroom, which is the most important thing of why we're not running Pineclone instead, is because it removes the ability of the Astro Shroom to keep hitting face in the Planet of the Grapes. You know, so we just want this to keep drawing cards in the Planet of the Grapes. Basically, we're running Gloomstream as our top end card if we don't get anything else. But Gloomstream helps us to be pretty well, happens to do very well anyways, because we're running a lot of mushrooms in this deck, and we have a lot of mushroom powers because we're Nightcap, so synergizes very well as well. So yeah, running 2 copies of Shelly basically protect your minions. You could run something else, but Shelly is okay. Banana Launcher, just, you know, draw those banana bombs from your banana launcher, stalls for that cycle combo that you want to set up, which just happens to be pretty good. Also running Blooming Heart, you know, just very good 1-cost card. Basically these cards are just a combo with the Astrocum combo for obvious reasons. Blast Radish Hunter is a lot card as well. As I explained already when I was explaining combos. So yeah. Overall, very solid deck for Nightcap. You know, it's pretty fun because you do have the cycle combo. Reason why we're not running beans is because, you know, you don't really have enough beans for Nightcap to really work well, and plus, you know, the beans don't really synergize well with the Kapaloom side really necessarily. Maybe there could be a version where, you know, you run beans as well with Jelly Bean, but it's kind of too costly for, you know, cycling inside of the Planet of the Grapes, and especially placing Admiral Navy Bean I found on the ground is a bad idea in general. Because it makes it so much more prone to removal, and that's just not typically how you want to play like the beans, because typically with beans you really want to play that bean in the water and, you know, stop that unstoppable damage. Yeah, kind of just opting for like more mushrooms kind of vibe right here as the other way of winning if we don't get our cycle combo. So yeah. Next hero. Alright, so next hero, we're going to be talking about Chompzilla. So we're going to be talking about Ringzilla. Basically, the idea of Ringzilla is to have that onion rings combo. So we're running 4 onion rings in the deck, and the reason why I think that onion rings is so strong with Ringzilla, I mean not Ringzilla, but Chompzilla, is basically the, you know, ultimate synergy with the solar class. So why is this so good with the solar class is because you have Apple Saucer and Little Buddy and Catch a Mechanic as your solar cards. So basically, normally we do a, you know, onion rings on, for say, a normal 2-cost card. Let's say on a normal 2-cost card, it's gonna be like Pepper MD, Fire Pew Shooter. Those are just gonna be generic 2-cost 4/4s in your deck, you know. But with the solar class, when you play onion rings, the turn after you're gonna have a 2-cost 4/4. Yes, an apple saucer, but it has strike through, which makes it so much stronger in terms of, you know, how good it is, because, you know, you just got that hard hitting strike through 4 damage, and, you know, it's synergized with the onion ring so well because, you know, it's cheap and it works well. And you have 0-coster cards like Little Buddy, which work very well with onion rings, because then you can, you know, transform these little buddies into 0-cost 4/4, which is extremely strong in terms of like how good it is, and, you know, it just scales them so well. And if you don't get your onion rings, then you can use your elderberries as well on top of these little buddies, so still works very well. Of course, you also have Kernel Pulp, which also becomes a 1-cost 4/4 team up, which is absolutely amazing in terms of being a good card by itself anyways. We're running the early game with Bok Choy and Hot Pumpkin, basically want to run a little bit of aggression. So if we want to go aggro against our opponents like Tail Imps, then, you know, we can still do it that way with our aggression. That's due to our lack of removal with, you know, Chompzilla, so we don't really have ways to, you know, necessarily remove things off the board, except for Hammer, which we're not running. So you typically just want to run a very aggressive, like, kind of early game to, you know, aggro opponents down and make them, you know, not have that many, you know, answers against our late game cards otherwise, and not develop that much tempo themselves. But this deck kind of does struggle against a lot against, like, the new kind of not the new, but the old kind of crazy package stuff. But yeah, Ringzilla struggles a lot against crazy package because because its minions typically die a lot to like crazy removal, and typically it's a little bit too way to rely on this onion rings right here. So yeah, a little adjustment I made was to have like a couple black eyed peas, which is, you know, kind of better than banana swords back then anyways. So run a couple black eyed peas, you know, just to make sure you have that little 2 free option, so you have a little bit of a good option to have, you know, play around their tricks instead of just, you know, spamming these like 2 health, 1 health minions on the board, which is not good. Also, I didn't even mention, but Catch a Mechanic is also 4/4 base stats after bringing buff on onion rings, but after you place it, it's gonna count 1/1 for every single minion still. So if there's 3 minions on the board and you play a 4/4 Catch a Mechanic, you're gonna get a free cost 7/7, which is exceedingly good. We're running Plant Food because it's very good with our cheap, you know, 4/4s. You know, you can just basically play it, even you can just play a Little Buddy, which is a 4/4, 0-cost 4/4, and then you can just, you know, play that, plant food on top of it, or like one cost card that's a 5/4, Bong Choi, and just do a 6 damage bonus attack immediately, which is very strong. So yeah, that's a valid way to really use plant food, because it helps you win the game. With these strike fruit minis as well, especially on top of an elderberry, very strong. Also with magnifying grass, really that magnifying grass, it was running at like 2 or 3 copies before in old Ringzilla. It really isn't that great, because when you draw multiple copies of it, it kind of hurts because it's your win condition. But kind of cutting this down to like a token means that you only ever draw one of them, which is pretty good now, because you're typically not playing more than 1 magnifying grass per game. Like typically you play your magnifying grass and you play your plant food and just win the game. That's it. You don't play more than 1 magnifying grass per game. So that's why you're just running 1 to prevent cells from breaking with too many magnifying grasses, and help us get more better options like our black eyed peas. Otherwise, so yeah, that's gonna be it for Chompzilla. So the next deck I'm gonna be talking about is gonna be A-Beans. So we're going to be talking about A-Beans right here. This deck is very strong actually, because against ladder. So basically this is Green Shadow Beans in a way, but instead of elusives, which kind of aims to protect your own beans from dying to your opponent's removal, basically this deck is a lot more proactive in actually doing damage to your opponent's face. This is probably the best plant aggro deck right now, or just basically any plant aggro deck that exists. Basically, you can play very, very fast with your Admiral if you're being that good. It's stackable a lot of damage over time, because you're running very strong beans, which are click peas, and the black eyed peas, which these are both beans and very, very strong aggro cards as well by themselves. Click peas, you can play them at 2/2, and then on turn 3, and on turn 2 you can just play them as 2 cost 3 freeze, which is absolutely broken. And these beans stack in the water very well, so it happens to be aggressive, because your opponent cannot block those beans in the water. So that's why it's pretty good. Running Bong Choi is a little bit of a free attack on turn 1 kind of countermeasure. Bong Choi can be replaced by Primal Pea Shooter, which helps happens to synergize this deck a little bit better. That's in the anti-database version, but we're going to be showing the database version, because this deck is usually used against ladder instead of going against database, because against database, like, you always want to run elusives anyways. So we have a very aggressive options like our split peas, rutabagas, even just like our little, cool bean, which works pretty well as well, because it's a free cost retreat, which is on curve, and is a bean. So that's what basically the only one for cool bean. Plus we have growth room, which is a very good aggressive card as well, because typically then you can play your beans in the water, and then use your growth room to grow those beans in the water, which makes growth room better, because they can't kill those beans, and they can't front the beans in the water, which helps you push more damage to your opponent's face and while chump blocking. So running late game cards, basically Banana Swords Rex, very, very strong tempo card. Jelly Bean, already explained with elusives why it's so broken. Gatling Pea, happens to be kind of good, because you do have enough peas to justify running Gatling Pea as a finisher, even if you don't get a P to evolve on top of, which does 5 bonus attack of 5. It's still very good as a card itself, because it's like basically a 10 attack with 5 mana, which is very good. So you get 12 P's evolve on. You have click P's, you have black eyed peas, and split peas to evolve your Gatling on, which is fairly consistent enough to justify running Gatling P. Alright, so the next deck now we're getting to like the bottom of the barrel right here. So now we're kind of getting into the bottom of the barrel. We're going to be talking about Solar Flare, and we're going to be talking about Ram clones. So Ram clones, I have a hard time, just justifying Ram clones as a really good deck, honestly. Ram clones is just, I don't know, it's just way too inconsistent as a deck in general. But the idea of the deck is basically, in the deck name, ramp to Pine Clone. So you ramp to Pine Clone, and if you happen to get your Pine Clones early on like turn 3, then you can really just annihilate your opponent much more easily, because Pine Clones coming out turn more, and just transforming those things that have already given you value into a Pine Clone just helps you a lot, because after a Twin Sunflower gives you 2 Sun, you can immediately transform it into a Pine Clone, which becomes a free, and you still have the 2 mana for this turn that you can spend it on more stuff like a Trooper 2, and basically stuff like that. But the reason really just suffers between the Pine Clone, not being the Pine Clone not being strong enough, but when you do not get Pine Clone, it just happens to suffer so much badly, because the alternative ways of winning are not strong, which are Elderberry and Nasser Kauto, which get countered very, very easily. So just imagine this deck with a Pine Clone, just probably the worst plant deck in the game easily at that point. These, these just get countered so easily by like Fruitcake and even Pogo Mug Yeti just counter these so efficiently. And basically any kind of removal in the game, like even Backward Bounce and even Deadly, even like Toxic Wasteland plus bonus attack, even just kills these so easily as well. So yeah, that's the main problem with Ram Clones, is just not drawing your Pine Clone. And even if you draw your Pine Clone, you're not guaranteed to win because you're not guaranteed to get those Ram cards into your Pine Clone, or not guaranteed to get your fodder for your Pine Clone as well, and you're not guaranteed to have that Pine Clone option that just transfer that board into a crazy free board every single time. So that's kind of the main issue of Ram Clones, but it is the best kind of solar flare deck that utilizes Pine Clone, which is pretty cool. But I'm basically done. But I probably got cut off in the middle explaining what Ram Clones are really weak against. Pretty much talking about like Banana Launcher, why Banana Launcher. You use Banana Launcher, it gets your Banana Bomb, and then you use your Pine Clone on top of it, becomes a free, and then that's basically it. And yeah, Elderberry evolve on your cheap minions, and then Astrocado basically as your other win condition, just hit your. Sometimes died. Not my internet did not die at all. I don't know what the heck is going on, but yeah. We're back. We're gonna take a little bit of a break. Let's just wait for everyone to be back right here. Okay, I'll just read the chat a little bit. Alright, in the meantime, I'm just gonna re-chat a little bit and respond to your comments. Let's take a little break right here. Right. Let me do this. Oh yeah, guys, next hero is Rose. Time to freaking shit on Rose. Rose is fucking bad. I hate fucking Rose. Alright. guys, listen. It's fine. Even Fry's Witty clones is better than Ram clones. My suggestion is not run Solar Flare. There, I said it. I said it, okay? There, my recommendation is not run Solar Flare. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna need to ban you from chat if you keep saying things like that. It's not appropriate. Ain't appropriate. Alright, let's get into the worst hero of 2021 for plans. Drumroll please, and that is going to be Rose. So this is the best deck for Rose right here. Yeah, and that's gonna be it for Rose, guys. This is the best deck for Rose right here. Nothing, because Rose sucks. Alright, let me just explain why Rose really just sucks that bad right now. So, reason why Rose is just so bad in this in this current meta is typically because of what do you call it? Of the crazy removal in tow with Pokemon Yeti. So what is making Rose just so bad as a hero in general? It's because its late game cards are just so weak against like any kind of control strategy, which is that's just a fruitcake. Like you place an Ashkado, get through by the lightning bolt for 1 mana. Goodbye, bye bye. good late game, bro. That's just gone. And you try to play Banana, it's kind of win more, and it's not that great. And if you play Garmatter Dragon Fruit, it's kind of too late already, and it still gets countered by Pokemon Yeti. So it does not counter Pokemon or even the control of the kind of any control deck with like Rocket Science and even Fruitcake. Rose struggles a lot against. And the next biggest problem with Rose is that on turn 2, Rose is actually, I'm pretty sure, the only hero in the game that does not have a free cost. Rose is the only hero in the game that does not have a free health option on turn 2, which is a humongous problem for Rose being a viable hero. So what people do against Rose is on turn 2, just place a 1-cost card and leave a Plumber in your hand. And nothing as Rose has more than 2 health on turn 2, which is a huge problem in terms of building a deck for Rose. And I've been struggling against, to really just build a good deck for Rose because of the specific reason is that opponents just, play 1-drop and a plumber on turn 2, your whole game plan is destroyed because you can't do anything. Your turn 2 is guaranteed to be dead. One of your minions is guaranteed to be dead to plumber, and your minion of like a common guaranteed to live. Huge problem. And the kind of solution I've kind of came up to this problem is kind of like this heal package, which is Little Buddy, Prime Sunflower, Pepper MD, Catch a Mechanic, and Rescue Addish. And the reason why I'm saying this is because basically the idea is basically you just ramp on turn 1 instead of actually trying to actively slap your opponent's minions, but you use your Prime Sunflower to ignore the turn 1 play, and then if you have a Pepper MD, then you can use the Pepper Buddy combo, and if you have a Radish, then on turn 2 you can already play a minion with more than 2 health, so it solves that problem of not having an anti-plumber minion on turn 2, and as well you have a Catch a Mechanic is just really strong because if you ignore your opponent, then you can just play Catch a Mechanic. So this is basically kind of like a heal package I've come up with these 5 cards right here, but the rest of the deck is really just fidgety right now. This is not a very set in place deck list, but my recommendation is just don't use Rose because Rose is not a good hero, at least on the competitive scene. So yeah, running like Cop Cannon still, Elderberry, Astrocato, Brainana. Brainana is really, I don't know. I still don't know how strong Brainana is really, and typically Brainana is not great of a card because Brainana is really just a win war, and if you don't have things on the board, Brainana is not going to help you at all to actually win the game. And yeah, just bringing Brainana just because it's our only option against like those control decks. We don't have any other way out. We just have to use Brainana. A couple of Tech of Grey Flakes. I don't know. This deck is very still in like development right now, but yeah, there is no confirmed deck list for what the best deck for Rose is. Honestly, if you want to show me, if you want me to show you what the quote-unquote best Rose deck is according to Sushi, I'm gonna tell you right now, this deck freaking sucks. Okay, do not craft Ramen Rose. This deck sucks ass. Do not craft it. Okay, stop. This is not a good deck. This is very bad. Do not craft it. Okay. And that's going to be it for all the plant heroes. For Beta Carotina, we don't have a deck for Beta Carotina. Basically, just use Citron. There's no deck for Beta Carotina. Just use Elusives. It's fine, It works on Beta Carotina, and that's basically it for, the best plant decks of 2021. We tried heal, we tried anti-tricks, we tried late game rant, we tried control, and everything sucks. Beta Carotina is like unranked. Brainana is very hit and miss. Is very good against some decks and garbage into others. You can say the same thing about every other card in the game. Well, actually, I can tell you one card that's not like hit or miss. How is Teleportation Zombie hit or miss? I don't know. Teleportation Zombie is hit or miss. Like, Teleportation Zombie is good against every single deck. I'm just gonna ask right now, how is Teleportation Zombie hit or miss? Teleportation Zombie is bad against nothing. like what hard counters Teleportation Zombie? Nothing. The heck nothing counters Teleportation Zombie. That's a Gravebuster. Gravebuster is still a 2-for-2 trade, It's still a 2 mana for a 2-cost minion. Still not a hard counter. Primal Pea Shooter. Primal Pea Shooter is not a counter, you can still, place minions on a board to turn you play Teleportation Zombie. Teleportation is busted. Oh yeah. I mean, I didn't need you to tell me that. Teleportation Zombie, I mean, like, is Teleportation Zombie like really the only like card in the game that really doesn't get punished by anything? I mean, it kind of is, Like, Teleportation Zombie really is the card that, just gets countered by nothing. Like, what specifically... Guys, let's think about it right now. What is a specifically good thing against Teleportation Zombie on turn 2, a 1-for-1 trade? Like, basically nothing in the game counters Teleportation Zombie, if you think about it. Pumpkin Garlic. Guys, pumpkin garlic is the only thing that doesn't, and it still, costs 2 cards, And if you're against teleportation zombie and you play pumpkin garlic, you know what's gonna happen next turn? That's right, it's gonna be a freaking Emperor Imp into your face. It's gonna be an Emperor Imp into your face, and yeah, see you next time, Fireweed. If you rely on teleportation zombie, it could mess up your turn. And that's the problem when people play tele imps. They don't know how to, control how much they want to invest in the teleportation zombies value, Problem is people don't know how much to invest into, actually getting value of a teleportation zombie. I happen to be a pretty good player in terms of playing tele imps. I know a couple people who are also pretty good at tele imps, but tele imps is definitely a hard deck to play because you have to really, make sure that, how much, value you want to just squeeze out of your teleportation zombie before it dies. Play Astro Cuddle, but if it dies, play to see on turn 7, and then use Brainana. Problem with the Astro Cuddle plus Brainana thing is that, it doesn't stop the fact your opponent wins before you can even pull that off. There's a broken cards in the game like Triceratops, which is frustrating. There is a hard counter to Triceratops, which is Cyborg. So yeah, I don't know. Would I necessarily say it's more broken? I don't know. VRH still gets, clipped in the middle of a Wheat Spray, which is still very decent. Wheat Spray is a 1-for-1. No. If you do Wheat Spray, you're gonna kill everything else in the board that has 2 or less attack. The heck are you talking about? Let's go into zombie decks. We'll go into zombie decks after this little quick break right here because you guys are investing into the ads. Are you kidding me? We have 14 ads? The heck is this? We have 14 ads. Okay, bro. We have 14 ads? Are you freaking... Wow, 14 ads. Congratulations, guys. Looks like this stream is just gonna be ads, Kind of a pay. You guys have to... Okay, we have more ads now. Guys, time to look at ads, okay. Okay. Alright. Let's go into zombies now. Yeah, let's move on to zombies. Alright. Alright, so now for the best decks of 2021 on the zombie side. Again, we're gonna move from the best to the worst, kind of, in terms of how good every deck is. So we're gonna start off with the best zombie deck, in my opinion, and that's gonna be Tele-Imps. So Tele-Imps is pretty much like the best jack of all trades deck. If you really just want to think about it, this deck is so strong because it has basically everything you want in the deck. It has card draw. It has very strong win condition. It has a very strong, synergy curve, and it has a very good game plan as well, and very good finishers. So, basically the idea of this deck is that you can teleport deadly imps in front of your opponent's cards, and you can use Imp Commander when you teleport it in. Then you can hit your opponent's face more consistently. And this deck is very good because it's a reactive imp deck. So typically, Infering Imp is not that great of a card because you place it, and because you have to place it in the zombie phase, so you don't necessarily know when they're gonna, because then you're not gonna play planes in the lane you play Infering Imp in, so you have to use Infering Imp to answer the card they played the turn previous if you have to use Infering Imp without a teleport. But with a teleport, you can instantly answer what they played the turn on the turn. So on turn 3, for example, they do Velociraptor Hunter. That play gets hard countered by a teleport plus it Infering Imp. You get 4 imps in total and block 6 damage, which is absolutely incredible, in terms of value you're getting from, just having teleports with imps, and especially you have teleports with your imposters, which helps a lot. And if you're using deadly imps and teleporting those imps in, then what happens is basically instantly kill your opponent's minions, which is very, very strong. But the main strength of this deck is not really the imps itself, but funnily enough, it's HG superpowers. Let's start with HG superpowers, and let's start with the first one, which is Terraformer 10,000. And congratulations, if you get this in your starting hand, you automatically win the game. So, if you get Terraformer 10,000 in your starting hand, you automatically win the game. That's why this deck is pretty funny, because if you get Terraformer, you automatically win the game. You don't have to care about anything else. So, very, very broken superpower. I don't know how I fix this, but you know, this just is way too strong on turn 1, but then it kind of falls out really quickly in late game if you don't get it in your first cycle as well. And the next kind of broken superpower, congratulations, the next one is Teleportation Station. Start the turn with a zombie here, gain a teleport. Great. So, your opponent removes the minion inside of the Teleportation Station, but then because you drew a teleport the turn previous, you're just going to teleport another thing back in. So, also another incredibly broken superpower. So we have Ice Moon, which is zombie heroes get strike through and you freeze all the plants here. This superpower is probably like the best on the zombie side, maybe. I don't even know. Like this might be one of the best on the zombie side. You know, giving a zombie strike through and freeze. So this basically just gives strike through, which is instant guaranteed damage to your opponent's face on that lane, and it guarantees a good trade because you freeze it. A very, very, very strong superpower. Ice Moon is definitely S tier. Iron Border is the one that's weaker because it still dies to the things that common dies to. So yeah, Iron Border is kind of overrated. Iron Border is not, that crazy strong because it's basically just a common, engraved between a grave robber. It's not that strong, but still okay-ish. Not that great though. So you have the HC superpowers, which are very, very strong. Which is one of the main reasons why this deck is so strong and comparatively to Super Brains, and why it's so much better than Super Brains. And plus, just instant synergy in the deck. And I haven't actually explained why we're running Blob in this deck. So basically, you can, teleport these imps. I already explained, you have these teleports and you, reactively hit your opponent's minions of these deadly imps, and you can draw more cards. So if you draw a lot of cards, then you're gonna have a lot of imps on the board, and if you have a full board, you can start teleporting a blob onto on a full board of imps. And if you have blob, it's a very cheap, free cost card, and it's gonna become usually more than 5 attack. It's a very good upgrade for like your imposter just sitting on the board right there and hits your opponent's face very harshly. And if you have, it happens because if you have blob, then you can start running these bonus attacks and backer bounces that helps help these blocks hit your opponent's face, which is very good as a win condition. And plus, because we're running Imp Commander, then we're going to be able to draw so many cards to just help us, contribute to that blob, combo OTK win condition. So very, very strong in terms of, having blob as well. And plus, you have Cowboy, which is also insanely strong with teleport because, it just dodges all your opponent's garlic, so they can't really even answer it unless they have like anti-tricks. And if they really just go for frag damage, you can always just go for your improving imps. So yeah, overall very strong deck. You basically running back your bounce because you want to remove your opponent's Astrocatos and Nullberries and like soul patches off the board, as well as still being very synergetic with your blobs, and running bonus attacks because you can use it on any minion that is deadly to instantly kill the thing in front of it to save it, and plus being synergetic with blob as well. Very, very, very good deck in terms of synergy. Running a token swabby because it happens to be very good with Toxic Waste, when you can teleport it like a 0 cost card. We're only running one of them because you don't want to get more than one swabby in a deck. The database deck runs 2 swabbies. I think running one is more optimal because I like running free teleports, just to have more options against the turn 2 Twin Sunflower, which that kind of struggles against because you kind of need the teleport 1 cost imp option on turn 2 against like the Twin Sunflower heroes. So yeah, that's gonna be it for the best zombie deck in the game, which is probably might be the best deck in the game as well. But it's kind of like neck and neck in terms of like going against like free int and kind of in terms of like power level. So yeah. So the next best zombie deck in the game, this is actually pretty funny, but I'm pretty sure this is the next best zombie deck in the game, which is going to be Trick Stash. Unfortunately, a Mustache deck has become the second best zombie deck in the game in 2021. I know, we have Quasar. Yes, we have Quasar. Yes, we have Mustache Waxer. I know, Papega. But unfortunately, yes, you had to deal with it. This is the second best zombie deck in the game. So So why is this deck really that strong? It's basically a mustache deck with trickster control, and the reason why, this synergizes very, very, very well is that you happen to people when they make mustache decks, they think like, oh, we get all this mana, we have to swarm the board, we have a full board, we're gonna make an aggro deck, we're just gonna have Conman, aerobics instructor, place it with mustache waxer, so strong, and the problem with that kind of deck idea happens to become like that you have all this extra mana from waxer, you happen to really, you happen to have all this extra mana from Waxer, you're not gonna have anything to spend that mana on. And this that kind of solves it because you have your tricks that you can, you have mana to spend on tricks when you have a full board with your Waxer. You spam the whole board with Waxers, and then at the end of this spamming phase, you're gonna have like a couple of mana left over, so you're gonna be able to use it on tricks instead to buff your Trickster up. And these have to be very good cards as well because Quasar synergizes very well with Trickster because it gives you a guaranteed trick, And Quasar is a legitimate use in this deck because you can do a Waxer plus Quasar combo, which is insanely strong because Waxer gives you one bring back, which guarantees you have that one mana to spend on your superpower that you get from Quasar, which is very strong. And we have a lot of naturally built-in mustaches in this deck as well. We have Rodrigo, which is a mustache. Dance On, which generates 2 mustache minions, which is very good. Telepathy, of course, helps you draw into that Waxer combo as well. And Summoning just controls turn 1, which is very good as well. So, all superpowers are very much well utilized in this deck. Especially the Eureka's are more effective in this deck because it's a mustache as well. So, the kind of mustaches we have are Bungee Plumber, which we're going to run anyways. Grave Robber is just, an extra 1-cost minion to help, combos. And even a Barrel of Deadbeards is actually a mustache. The Captain Deadbeard inside the barrel is actually a mustache. So that's another synergy with Waxer. The Deadbeard giving 1 mana back from exploding is not the thing that matters. The thing that matters the most is it's a very special game interaction is that when Waxer is at 1 health and a Barrel of Deadbeards explodes, the Waxer does not die and it stays at 1 health because that 1 health that it gains from the Deadbeard spawning prioritizes before the 1 damage that is dealt by the Barrel that is recognized by the game. So if you have Waxer on the board, it never dies to a Barrel of Deadbeard's explosion, which is very, very cool, and I like it a lot. We're running Garg for him to tech against like database decks, which run Free Nut and Pine Clone, and a lot of swarmy options like Garlic. Against Ladder, you can actually, I think this is a legitimate use to actually run Trick or Treater in a kind of deck like this, because then you end up having a lot of extra mana left for Trick phase. Then you can actually use Trick or Treaters to capitalize on this extra mana to actually get some more extra treats to help you buff your little mustaches. So this is kind of better into Ladder, but it doesn't really do that much better, not really, but Garg Throwing is fine. So the reason why you can run Garg Throwing is really just use the teleport Garg Throwing combo, which is very, very strong because teleporting in a Garg Throwing basically is the same idea as before. Like I feel like about an Inferium, then you can teleport in front of a Velociraptor Hunter and you get to 2 Gargs for a cost of mana of 5, and you're only spending an extra teleport, which is very good. So yeah, rest of the deck is basically just basically regular Trickster control. You have enough mana to really help get that Trickster up, to buff that Trickster up. And if you tap, and it very, very big misconception about this deck is that if you don't get Waxer, you lose the game. That is not true, because if you're not getting Waxer, you're getting most of the cards in your deck that actually just control your opponent. And you can just play Grave Robber on turn 1 to force your opponent to answer it, because they're not going to be taking 2 damage to bullseye to the face like every single turn. They have to answer Grave Robber, and Quasar just helps you control with their final missions. And if you don't get Waxer, the whole deck is basically just a control deck anyways, and if you happen to get Waxer, then you can play like a mid-range deck comboed it with tricks, mustaches, which is very good. And yeah, Feather Racers, there's a draw into your combos, of course. Barrel mission, mission on your Quasards, and missions on your backup dancers and your summoning as well. Very, very, good, things. So in terms of matchups, this has one of the best matchups, by far in the game. So Trickstash is an auto win against Ringzilla. It's an auto win against Barton. It's also a favorite matchup against Free Ends. It's also, let me just have to pull up the list right here. It's also very good against a Free Mid. Even-ish kind of matchup against Funnier Knight. Kind of bad against Cygro and Ram Clones because of the swarmy nature, which this deck is the most struggling against. Which what Trick Stash really struggles against is swarmy decks like Ram Clones and Cygro. So yeah, those are the best bets if you want to beat Trick Stash. Rose, do not even talk about Rose, but against Rose automatically dies with this deck as well. And this is the best deck in the game against Combos. This is the best deck in the game against Combos. If you just want to beat Combos, use Trick Stash. This is like the best kind of, anti Combos deck. Even better than Garg Burn, honestly, because you have that very, very strong turn 6 combo option to just instantly kill your opponent before they can drop their moss. And I tested this against like Badurni. Yeah, no, Combos does not even stand a chance against Trick Stash. Like, very, very bad matchup and very, very good for Trick Stash, especially because Waxer denies so much banana launcher value as well. It just helps you because those Waxers just get up so much stats. They can't get removed anymore by those banana bombs. And just very, very strong. So this is basically your best deck against Combos as well. So it has a very, very good matchup against most of the decks in the game. Even against like Cygro, it's still fine unless they get a it's still fine if it's Cygro, because if they don't get their cycle combo like Astrogen Plant of the Grapes, you still have a pretty good matchup against Cygro. You still have a pretty decent chance, and that's why I'm gonna say Trick Stash is very, very strong, because you really just only have 2 counters, which are like Ram Clones and Cygro, and typically you don't want to run Ram Clones in a tournament. Like, why would you run Ram Clones, honestly? And actually I forgot to mention like Elusives also counters this deck, but Elusives is typically banned in a tournament. But yeah, Elusives definitely counters this deck, because Elusives is like easily like your go-to option if you just want to go anti-control. So you want to go like anti-Trick Stash, you play Elusives. Elusives, best bet. And then also Cygro is also a very good bet. So if you want to counter this deck, Elusives or Cygro. Alright, so we're gonna move on to the next best deck in the game, which is gonna be Infinity. And I think you guys can anticipate this already, but it's gonna be Infinity Pirates. So Infinity Pirates are very strong, and we have a slight update from like last year in terms of like Barrel Pirates. So this is Barrel Pirates 2.1. Basically, Barrel Pirates 2 is basically taking out a Surgery Retreat and a Bungee Plumber for 2 Line Dancing Zombies, which is a very good great mix-up. So the reason why we're running Line Dancer now is because typically on turn 3 our only gravestone in the past was Flame Phase, which gets exploited so easily. In the past, when people just play Flame Phase, they just go, oh, that's a Flame Phase on turn 3. Oh, let's just play Freenet, and then they lose. Pirates lose, and like you just have, and because the only gravestone in the game, like in the deck, was the Captain Flameface, which makes it so much easier to just snipe and make a really good play against it. And it happens to be that Line Dancer is actually a very, very good card to mix up that, because not only does it act as a different gravestone that they have to play around, this also punishes the counters that they have to against Captain Flameface, like Asia Y Freenet on turn 3, and just kill, and the Line Dancer just moves to the Freenet and just kills it, which is very good synergy. So kind of like a very good grave mix up right here. So we're also running extra smoke bombs and we're also running less aerobics instructor and more smoke bombs, because smoke bombs, I kind of found out during testing, there are really, really good at activating our Cowboys back up. Just letting these hit phase against like any kind of Prime Potato Mine or Hot Day. This is just like kind of a hardy treat, but on the sneaky class. And if you think about it that way, is that they front at your opponent with front your minions with Primal Dynamite, you can use the smoke bomb and just drag it out of the way, and it's gonna keep doing damage, and the Primal Dynamite is gonna be stuck there in that lane. Very, very good, like anti-mines, anti-dates, and aggro card in general as well. So we're doing the barrel mission, and don't really have to explain. This is basically Infinity Pirates, Ray Robber Con-Man with your flame phase. Okay, so I'm actually gonna explain why we're not running Swashbuckler as well. Swashbuckler happens to be a 2-cost 2/2, which gets countered by virtually any 2/3 in the game, which is Juggernaut, Black Eyed Pea. Like those cards just hard counter Swashbuckler, which is not a good trade, because you're trading down your 2-cost cards to a 1-cost card, which is the bigger swamp. And the other problem is that if you're saying that, oh, what if I have a comment already alive on the board, then it's really just redundant to have a very big win more option with a Swashbuckler, because if you have a comment already alive on the board, playing Aerobics Instructor is basically just as good as playing a Swashbuckler, because it applies basically the same amount of pressure. So yeah, and Aerobics Instructor helps more when you don't have that comment on the board, because it doesn't get traded just as easily by like a Black Eyed Pea or like a Juggernaut. So yeah, you run an Aerobics Instructor instead, because it actually works better when there's nothing on the board, and still works just as great when you have your comments or grave robbers applying pressure to your opponent's face. And that's really the main reason why we're not doing a Swashbuckler. If you're going against ladder, I don't know, you know, against like, I don't know, like Swashbuckler against ladder, maybe it's good, probably still shit. But yeah. So we're in Cowboy as a finisher, very strong finisher, again being, you know, Cowboy typically. So yeah, this deck is also, so if you want to, you know, play a deck that pushes for ranked, I would recommend this deck right here. Barrel Pirates 2.1 is the deck I would recommend for playing against ranked, because it plays the fastest in general for, you know, the amount of good decks. And yeah. So yeah, I would recommend Barrel Pirates if you want to push on ranked with zombies. So yeah, overall very strong deck against even like ladder and even against database. Like this is not like weak against like some kind of decks. Normally this is pretty hard to tech unless it's like, you know, free ins, which has the ultimate anti-aggro crazy package, you know, kind of tech cards, which just destroys Barrel Pirates. Otherwise this deck is very strong. It's both options in the game, and that's why it comes into the third place. And I've actually kind of, you know, compared the matchups between Trickstash and Barrel Pirates. In this current meta, yes, Trickstash has slightly better matchups than Barrel Pirates, actually. And yeah, this is typically one of the, also this is another huge advantage for like using this deck to push for ladder, honestly, is that this deck is very easy to play as well. You just, you know, you play our pirates, play your flame faces, move your opponent's minions, win the game. You know, very easy to push on ladder as well, because it's very easy to play as well, compared to like Trickstash, which is relatively a little bit harder to play, but it's still pretty easy to play. But Barrel Pirates is like quick and easy, you know, very, and strong. Yeah, quick, easy, strong, very good. Alright, so the next kind of deck I'm going to show is Garg Burn. I've, you know, refrained from saying Garg Burn is like kind of the best, you know, deck in the game for a little while already now. But yeah, so I kind of refrained from saying Garg Burn is really the best deck in game by now, because people are starting to, you know, find good decks against it, which are just running Primal Potato Mine on hot dates and Berry Blasts. Typically Garg Burn is still a very strong deck. You know, all the like the top 4 zombie decks are very strong, I would say still. But Garg Burn is not as good as it used to be, because a lot of decks are, you know, like tech against it already, and probably, you know, have anti-crazy options against it. And even though it still wins in those matchups, it does not win as much in the matchups. And yeah, so basically, just want to say that's a pretty complex deck to play. The Garg Burn is basically a mid-range deck that you can adapt your playstyle against a slow deck and a fast deck. And against a, you know, kind of fast, like aggressive deck, then you can opt to play slower and use your barrel missions and control cards, you know, to, you know, slow down your opponent's aggression and you remove their things off the board. Against like a slow deck, then you can, you know, really just pile up that pressure of the common, brave robbers, and aerobics instructors, and and Captain Deadbeards, and really overwhelm your opponent that way. Drinking a bit of water because I've been talking for so long. But against other decks, then you can, you know, use your Gargologist into your Gargs right here. I don't really know how to really play this deck, and and I don't really properly know how to explain how this deck is really played, but it's just a deck that, you know, can adapt to multiple play styles. If you were trying to, you know, play, you know, for, you know, just play on ladder, I would not recommend playing Garg Burn. Garg Burn typically sucks against control decks, like heal decks and walnut control decks. Garg Burn sucks ass against control decks, which is the one weakness of it, because it has lack of, you know, kind of the lack of things to really do against like a, you know, against like healing, and typically not great, not your best bet against control decks. And a lot of ladder decks are control-ish, and it isn't completely garbage. And Garg Burn, I would say, like, is probably like the second hardest deck to play in the game, other than maybe Tully Imps. But Garg Burn, very complex deck. If you're playing in a tournament, of course, I would recommend this deck. If they didn't leave it banned, but you know, it's just really hard to play. So if you're really just pushing ladder, I recommend like other decks like Barrel Pirates, which are easy to play and also more fun to play. So, yeah, we're gonna move on right here to the next deck, and it's gonna be Binary 22. So this is Electric Boogaloo. Basically, we're gonna be talking about Binary 22. this is very interesting and kind of a deck that also kind of functions like a Garg bird, but you know, kind of adapts its playstyle against like certain kind of decks. But this deck is kind of like a more, you know, so we can talk about a little bit more of a. This is probably more similar to a control deck more than like a tempo deck. I'd say like this is pretty much a standard control deck, but you know, with your very interesting finishers right here. So you have your cheese cutters and your dog walkers to, you know, control turn 1, and your bungee plumbers, and on turn 2, you know, you run cyborg to counter strike carrot tops, and you run fruitcake, and you have extinction event. You know, very good, you know, controlling options right here. You know, this top, you know, these top cards right here, these 8 cards right here, bungee plumber, you know, these are all very good control cards in general. You control that early game, and then in the late game, you can follow that up with an Area 22 plus binary stars kind of combo, which is very strong because, you know, the binary stars, the Area 22 ends up doing 10 damage to your opponent's face, which is very powerful. Or you can use a bunny Garg and then, you know, just hit your opponent's face. I do not exactly know why you don't want supernova Garg instead, but from what I've heard is basically you want to run bunny because, you know, it generates eggs, and then you can use a final mission on top of the eggs, and also, you know, when it gets fronted, then, you know, you get more value overall because, you know, it chump blocks. And yeah, that's why I've heard like Bunnery 22 is you know, strong as a deck. Basically, when a maniacal laugh, if you don't get any of these with the game, then you can always use maniacal laugh on your cheap minions, of course, you know, to win the game. In my opinion, running 4 cheese cutters and 3 dog walkers is better. But overall, Bunnery 22 is also a pretty hard deck to, you know, optimally play because, you know, it really involves you to invest really well into like an optimal turn to really play that Area 22, and then, you know, optimal turn to play that bunny dry and that binary stars. Kind of a hard deck to play. So yeah, if you were to play Electric Boogaloo, I'd recommend a different deck, which is the Tempo package deck. So this deck is kind of easier to play. This is basically the Temp crazy package, but with Electric Boogaloo. And you have Cheese Cutter, you know, really aggressive options right here, and then follow Aerobics Instructor. So why we're running, so the main, you know, appeal to running this deck is basically having Synchronized Swimmer. So Synchronized Swimmer is just insanely strong this deck. It's basically the heart and soul of basically this deck. As you know, you get your big minions, buff them up, and then using a Synchronized Swimmer. If you want to watch like a video on this, by the way, all the deck's videos are linked in the description below. I haven't actually mentioned that in the introduction, but this was a hell of a fun deck to play because the Synchronized Swimmers were pretty awesome in that video, and you can basically so the idea is basically just, you know, Area 22 into something, and then play Swimmer to buff that, you know, big stat to the board. So you can play the Aerobics Instructor because of 4 free, and then you can just copy those stats into 4 free in the water, which is absolutely crazy. And of course, running Maniacal Laugh is their finishers. If you know, need that extra mileage, running Loudmouth to, you know, buff your other minions, and, you know, Cinderella's is very well for Aerobics Instructor as well. Running Barrel Mission as a means to actually get another 4 free, because then if you Barrel Mission, then you can just play the Synchronized Swimmer and copy those 4 free stats in your dead as well, which is very well. It works very well. And also, you know, you can play slow down and just play a little bit of control, and then, you know, just go for the Maniacal finish as well, which also works. And yeah, this is kind of an easier deck to play than Bunnery 22, and it's a relatively more simple game plan than Bunnery 22, so you can run it. So yeah, so now we've gotten out of the top 5 for zombies. I'm gonna say that right now, but there's also a big gap between the top 5 for zombies and the bottom 5 for zombies, but not necessarily like the bottom 5 right now, because we're gonna talk about Super Brain. So Super Brain's healthy imp, basically the same thing, but you're just running slightly different ratios. You're running Leprechaun imp instead. Typically, we're running less Breaker Bounces, and like our bonus attacks is we have Carried Away and Cut Down Decisive Super Stench, which means we have more bonus attack and more removal, so we don't need to run as much of these in our deck. And we don't have Teleportation Station either as well, which can justify 4 teleports in the deck, but we're running Leprechaun Imp instead of Neutron Imp because we don't have any environments built into it, our Super Brains. Typically, we just really want to run HD Teleimps, and HD Teleimps is so much better because you don't have to run Leprechaun Imp, and you can just run that Neutron Imp, which is so strong in terms of, you know, destroying your opponent, because it synchronizes your superpowers so well, and as well, overall having really broken superpowers as a whole, you know, just makes HD Teleimps so much better than Super Brain Teleimps. Super Brain Teleimps is like in the middle of the 11 zombie heroes, where HD Teleimps is literally the best. So just very far away. I know people haven't been able to get HG in the shop for so long, which is just unfortunate. So you're gonna have to stick with this if you want to play Telliums, and yeah, unfortunately, you're gonna have to run Leprechaun in and just run a less good version of the deck. So yeah, that's really it for Super Brains. So now we're gonna move on to the next zombie deck, which I mean, this is not kind of scraping to the bottom of the barrel now, because next deck is gonna be Lockout. So it's gonna be Brain Freeze. This is kind of like Lock-In, but we changed 2 cards. I don't know. This is just like better version of Lockout, pretty much, because pretty much I found out that you really just have to run more early in your Lockout. The database version of Lockout is just really bad because it only has 3 Dog Walkers, which means that you guys just get destroyed if your opponent plays on turn 1, like for Eminence or Galactic Cactus. You end up losing so much tempo, you can't counter it. Basically, just run early game Guardian kind of defense against Triceratops, their Forgetting Nuts. And just provide so much tempo, not much tempo, but a lot of control. And then you can follow that up with Area 22s and your Pokemon Yeti and your Raptors, kind of 2 swimmers in the deck because you want a swimmer to copy your big stats or Mug, Cryo Yetis, and Raiding Raptors. Not running as like 4 swimmers because you don't really need to play that many swimmers instead. So yeah, running Raptor instead of Line Dancing Zombie. And the problem with Line Dancing Zombie is because that you play Line Dancing Zombie on turn 3. Every single person in the mother knows it's going to be Line Dancing Zombie, so they're always going to play around it and ends up doing very little. This is not the same scenario as in Plank Control, because in Plank Control, then you have a lot of great options because you have Landscaper and Excavator Zombie, which means Line Dancing Zombie is actually viable because, they don't necessarily know it's a Line Dancing Zombie when you have other gravestone options like Landscaper, so they, sometimes sprint it and sometimes don't, so they don't know really what to make. But if it's in Lockout, I just don't want to run Line Dancing because then it happens, gets, counterplayed so easily, because they know it's going to be Line Dancing on turn 3 for certain. So yeah, not that great on turn 3. We're also not running Maniacal anymore because I just think running 4 Area 22s is better, just as a means to break through, because you have Pokemon Yeti that gives you tempo already, and your swimmers that go in the water, which is better instead of actually hitting your opponent's face. So yeah, Raiding Raptor synergizes Swimmer as well very well, and Area 22 and Pogo. We're not running Botanist anymore. I'm just gonna say it right now. Botanist is such a bad deck. Not a bad deck, but Botanist is such a bad card. I really can't, justify running Botanist anymore. You play on turn 2 and then just lose to Mint or Triceratops. It's just too slow. It's just too slow. And if you really want to, have Botanist that, really cool Area 22 guys, just Botanist into an Area 22 with a big minion, like, wow, great. It's so specific and so situational that you just don't want to run Botanist anyways. And if you play Botanist, no one fronts it, okay? Literally 0 people front Botanist. Who the heck fronts Botanist? I'm just going to ask right now. Like, who the heck is going to front Botanist? So it having free health really never matters because realistically it's just going to be a 2-cost 2/1. It's just a 2-cost card that does 2 damage to your opponent's face. And you take 1 damage back from the plant you made. And the reason is because it's not a threat, And people say that people just ignore Botanist, and so you can use Area 22 on it, which I'm gonna say right now, like, how did you manage to, just play Botanist and to play Area 22 without getting punished by something that, the plant players is running? Like, and that combo is still so slow because it's still just 5 mana for 4 attack, which is so slow. Just, no. Just don't run Botanist. It's not a good idea. I've found that out, pretty much. Just don't run Botanist. It's kind of like Lock-In. But yeah, definitely inspired by Lock-In, but just running Swimmer I find is a little bit better than like Laser Base Alpha, because Laser Base Alpha is not a good, kind of card. So next on the list is surprisingly actually going to be Poggerati. So I've kind of like did a little bit of things right here. But Poggerati is actually better than Plane Control in my opinion, because it has slightly better matchups against decks typically. But Poggerati, this is a very, very fun combo deck that basically just utilizes the Paparazzi with Teacher Win Condition with Rustbo. So this is basically the miracle deck of PvZ Heroes. The most miracle deck of PvZ Heroes, the combo deck of all gods. Basically, most fun deck ever. This is one of the best decks on ranked as well. Because, people just happen to really struggle against, these teachers and your Paparazzis. And, you just pull off this humongous combo of doing a bunch of damage to your opponent's face with your Paparazzi and the healthy treats and their gold virals, and you end up doing so much damage to your opponent's face. because you know they just can't remove that paparazzi off the board, and it just becomes like a 10-10. And you know he happens to have so many tricks in their deck, you know, just constantly buffing it, and you're able to do bonus attack to remove, and bonus attack, and then basically just kill them. So interesting inclusions in the deck are like Parasol. Parasol is actually very good as against like Kabloom removal, because you typically the weakness of Teacher and Paparazzi as well are them getting removed off the board on their plant space. So what you can do is just stick a Parasol on a board, and you place you know, your Teachers and your Paparazzis next to it, and then it protects them from getting removed, so you can actually pull that combo off. And you're running a couple of, you know, defensive options like Rolling Stone, Beam Me Up, and Flick, of course, to help you more into, you know, controlling that early game as well. Rolling Stone happens to be very good against like Freaking for the Synthesizer, and Beam Me Up is also pretty good against Triceratops. Flick is always very good with lots of Reddish Hunters and like a wide range of things. We're not running Rocket Science because Rocket Science is not actually a good card at all in this kind of deck. You kind of wanted to use Knockout more because, you know, you're focusing on the early game of really destroying your opponent. If you're going to invest in a big minion, you're going to die to your Paparazzi combo. So yeah. And yeah, basically running Teleportation Zombie because Teleportation Zombie is busted, but Teleport because it's just a one-cost trick that buffs your Paparazzis and it's free with Teacher as well. And you know, you can teleport these and to avoid your removal from the plants as well. So very, very strong deck. So a specific way how to play this deck, there's no really real specific way to play this deck. It depends on your hand, typically. So yeah, you can just watch the video. They're all going to be in the comments section, so you're going to be able to see how to play Paparazzi, and yeah, that's going to be it. So the next deck is going to be Plank Control. So I'm just going to be using database deck list for this one. Plank Control is just a very, very strong, like solid deck that you can use. Basically, just a control deck that you utilize as Black Hole primarily, a thing to control around. Basically, using Pokemon Yeti again, and you're just running a bunch of control cards right here. Not much to explain right here. Running Sumo in the Black Hole. Basically, you can play Black Hole in lane 4 and play a Sumo in it differently, and you can drag your things into the Sumo, and you know. And that's pretty much synergetic. You can run you're running Rolling Stone, you know, running Hardy removal, which is very good. And Landscaper as well, which is a very interesting inclusion in this deck because it happens to actually synergize with Monk very well as well, because then you can use her Landscaper to, you know, nerf minions that you know can be killed by Hardy removal. So very, very nice. We're running Excavator because it actually works well with Black Hole as well. We're running Weed Spray because it's a fuel clear card, and it's like Sagro, even against Elusive. Against a lot of decks, you know, Weed Spray is very strong against. The most notable deck that Plank Control is strong against is Barton, because Barton has literally nothing that has more than free attack, so Barton just literally insta dies to Plank Control because Plank Control has Hardy removal. That's really like how you counter Barton. Basically just have Hardy removal in your deck and you're gonna counter Barton for certain. And this deck hard counters Barton. Like hard counters Barton. And as our finisher, we have Plank Walker, which is a very good finisher because you just stick another board and that usually just wins the game. You get 2 pirates and you get a 6/6, which is very, very strong. Alright, so it's a pretty simple deck to play. Not that much to explain. Just basically, you know, the good old set 1 to the control. Alright, so the next couple of heroes are gonna be Monka-S, and the next one is gonna be Immorticia. So we're gonna be talking about like Toss. So Toss is kind of like this interesting deck that you really just want to do the combos with. So you basically just a science deck, but you don't want gadget sciences in because, you know, you're not really utilizing that science tribe synergy necessarily into that way, but you're actually using your science synergy into interdimensional zombie, which transforms into like a free cost card, which then usually has big stats, and then you can copy those stats with like a swimmer, and you just want to do. So basically, this is a very strong like early game kind of tempo kind of deck, and you just really want to focus on, you know, having those, you know, establish big minions on the board, and then with those big minion stats, you can copy those stats with your swimmer. So basically just combo things up around, combo your, you know, your neutrons with your Area 22, combo your interdimensional zombies with your other science cards, even your brain vendors with your blobs. You can get a lot of stats on the board very quickly, and you can, you know, spend all the, you know, you have the big stats on the board, then you can copy the swimmer in the water. This deck is actually pretty funny because you end up getting like swimmers with like 10 attack and 7 health in the water, which means they can't remove for the rest of the game, and which is very strong. Of course, you're running some dorsal launches to, you know, leech off the fact they have such, you know, strong, you know, high stat minions. And so yeah, basically it's a combo deck, you know, trying to want to kill them with a blob combo as well. Against ladder, you can run free Moonwalkers into Brain Benders. Against database, you just happen to run free Brain Benders more because the Brain Benders are good amount of defense against your opponent's minions if you want to play them for cheap. And yeah, that's basically it for Morticia. And notable, notable like honorable mention right here, Egmatisha, kind of like the control, the optimal Morticia control, basically the teleport Zombot. But this deck is falling off quite a little bit because it's really weak against like this early game pressure deck, and doesn't have Cyborg either, which I think this deck should definitely run Cyborg in. So yeah, kind of falling off short because it doesn't really have enough like control in the early game to really counter those like Triceratops and pesky things. So yeah, it's a teleport Zombot deck. You'll find a link to all these decks gameplay in the description, and yeah, not much to say about Egmatisha, basically just teleport Zombot. Alright, so now we're moving on to the worst hero in the entire game. And honestly, I had a hard time really just picking like which deck to really show to you guys about like Smash. And honestly, I'm gonna show this one right here. It's gonna be Papega Smash. This is Papega Smash right here. This came up in my like mind as an idea to really just hard counter everything in the game. So basically, what you want to do is just guys, black hole detect black hole detect elusives, and then you run Gladiator detect Cygro, and then you run Cyborg detect Triceratops, and then you run every guys. Okay, so the idea is just basically just tech every single thing in the game, and this works pretty well as a value deck. It's very control-ish, and it's a very value-centric deck based on intergalactic warlords just actually giving stats to everything, and just being able to have that sustain of the board that you have the Interstellar Bounty Hunters just drawing steam, and just having a lot of sustain in the deck. And this is definitely adapted from Fry's Mob Smash. Otherwise, if I have to show another like deck for Smash, I'll just show Horts. I don't know, this Smash just sucks. Typically my recommendation is just don't use Smash, because Smash is a very, very bad hero. Because Smash has terrible win conditions, and Smash's best win conditions is going viral, and that's it. Like, Smash's late game is so bad. Like, look at these late game cards, bro. What is this? Like, Zombot with a teleport, Octo Zombie? Are you kidding me? Like, trash. Okay, but pretty trash. Trash. Okay, but you don't have good cards to use this with. Trash. Like, all of Smash's late game cards are just complete utter trash, which makes Smash is really just bad in general. That the zero late game and just really doesn't work well, and Hardy class and the Beasley class are just support classes mixed together, which is not a good idea typically. And my recommendation, just I don't even know, just don't use Smash. And that's gonna be it for the best decks of 2021, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching to the end of this video. I know it was a pretty long one. I have to explain like every single best deck in the for each hero, and really went through like how good they are in terms of the scale and the competitive scene typically. And all the decks gameplay will be linked in the description or the comment section if I have streamed those decks before. I've streamed most of the decks before that I've mentioned in this list, except for like A-Beans and Ringzilla, I'm pretty sure, which are kind of exceptions, which I think I've forgotten to stream those, and I forgot to stream like Smash, and that's it basically. But yeah, that's gonna be it for the best decks of 2021 in PvZ Heroes. Hope we can find some new decks in 2022, because we found so many surprising things in 2021, thinking that we already know like the whole meta has been solved for like, oh guys, Garg Burn is gonna remain the best deck in the game for the rest of 2020, not the rest of 2021, but the rest of the game, rest of the duration. But yeah, we're just really finding out the new stuff. I don't know if the meta has really even been solved yet. We're trying still finding like to find a good decks for like Solar Flare and like Rose, and that's gonna be it, guys. Alright, guys, oh my gosh, that was so long. Trick Slash was made in June. I mean, there's that, right? Like, Mustache deck becomes meta in 2021. We never expected it. Alright, guys, that's gonna be it for me today. I'm gonna send you guys off to someone else. Let's see. Seems like Phone Cats is streaming BTV battles too, so let's go with Phone Cats, right? Let's go Phone Cats. He's streaming BTV battles too. Hopefully you guys will enjoy, and yeah. And I'll see you guys next time. Oh no, whoops. Do that. Okay. Copyrighted music. Get DMCA'd. Alright guys. See you guys next time. Yeah, free trolling points. Free trolling stones. Let's go. See you guys. Bye bye. Wait, before you guys go. Oh no, whoops, I forgot again. Guys, if you haven't already, join the Discord. If you haven't already, subscribe on YouTube. I forgot to promote these. Whoops. Okay, there you go. Okay, join Discord to stay on for updates, for stream notifications. Join for a variety of games as well. Currently we're running a tournament inside of our Discord right now. In terms of like the predicting who is actually gonna win in the Pantheon tournament. So that's kind of interesting. So yeah, just go to Discord and join the Discord and basically participate in our server events. We usually do variety games as well. So join for fun, and yeah, see you guys next time.